Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's So Interesting About, a channel exploring the interesting characters and stories of fictional universes, as well as the themes, opinions, questions, and trivia I find interesting in these universes. I think when we find something that is interesting to us as individuals, it becomes a reflection of the things we think about, or helps express some aspect of ourselves that maybe we are not able to communicate. Finding something that resonates with you in a character or story is an amazing experience filled with emotion, curiosity, and exploration. And that's what's so interesting about life. Join me on this journey of discovery and let's explore these universes and characters together. Warhammer 40k is a grimdark fantasy tabletop game created by Game Workshop in the early 80s. It has been around for a long time, but here recently has seen a surge of interest in both tabletop games and with the release of Ultramarine 2. Henry Cavill is maybe working on an Amazon show about this universe as well. I have been trying to get into it. It's unfortunate that a lot of the games are mediocre at best. I did play Inquisition, and that did stick for me. Ultramarine 2 was good and fun, a much better outing for the franchise. After playing Ultramarine 2 and Inquisition, I wanted to learn more about the universe. I jumped into the rabbit hole of lore and got lost in this deep, expansive world. Warhammer 40k has a myriad of interesting characters and places with stories that are moving and epically heroic to dismal and bleak. One of the most interesting characters is the Emperor of Mankind and his central role in the lore of Warhammer 40k and his admirable inconsistency. What makes the Emperor of Mankind so interesting? Well, first off, he is an immortal human being with psychic powers and godlike abilities. There are a variety of stories about his origins, and I like the mystery of not fully knowing where he came from. There are a variety of great videos about his origin and history that fully describe him. He has been around and watched humanity grow and change over millennia, and one of the origins I find interesting is that he roamed the earth and guided humanity by taking leadership positions among men and guiding them away from feeding the chaos gods. He watched mankind develop star travel during the age of technology. Following that age's collapse and the age of strife that followed, he witnessed the horrors and loss of life brought on by that age and decided to take control of humanity's destiny. He is the representation of order in the 40k universe, being called the anathema god by the chaos gods, and this theme is really interesting. The theme of order versus chaos has become more explored in current media. The chaos gods in Warhammer represent just that. There is Khorne the blood god, representing war, battle, wrath, anger, and slaughter. Tzeentch, who is the lord of change and represents the chaotic nature of change. He is probably the least understood of the chaos gods. Nurgle is the plague god of chaos. Festering wounds and pestilence is his bread and butter. Slaanesh is the newest chaos god, and was birthed when the Eldari fell from power due to overindulging their hedonism. She, or he, is the chaos god of pain, pleasure, hedonism, excess, perfection, and decadence, all deserving of their own videos. Another great example of this theme is Babylon 5. The story of the Vorlons and the Shadows is masterfully told through the eyes of the people involved in the struggle. Without chaos, order is just slavery, and without order, chaos just destroys everything. I love the duality of the two, and that they need each other. Elden Ring also explores this theme. We spend the entire game at the behest of the greater will to install order to the chaos in the lands between. It doesn't really care what form that order takes, as long as it is not chaos. Even though we can pick that as an option, and if we do, we see the world burn down around us. To achieve his mission of unifying humanity, he must make some rather shady decisions. In the bloodshed of the Unification Wars, he creates his Thunder Warriors, essentially the prototypes of what would later be his Primarch sons and Astartes. Through warfare, he dominates his rivals to conquer all of Earth, or Terra as it is called. However, at the end, he must destroy all his Thunder Warriors, as they were too powerful and dangerous for his new empire. He also abolishes religion, which I find interesting. He creates a secular society where there is only room to believe in science and the rational. There is that order and chaos theme coming up again. When order and rationality become the overriding authority, it often goes hand in hand to anything that goes against it with very little room for tolerance. Babylon 5 and Warhammer share this in common, where there are times that the forces of order will go as far as obliterating whole planets to keep chaos in check, even at the cost of genocide. The Emperor of Mankind, though, does all of this to have humanity take its rightful place amongst the stars, and he also does this remorsefully. He can acknowledge these decisions, and it's very similar to the story of Dune and Paul Atreides, where Paul is able to see the future of humanity and must guide it along a narrow path that only he can see. In doing this, he has to do some not cool things and wrestles with these choices. It's interesting to mention Dune, as they share another similarity with Warhammer. The Emperor forbids the use of AI technology in his new Imperium of Man. During the age of technology, one of the ways that humanity flourished was by using AI. Of course, like most stories involving AI, the machines eventually revolt against their organic masters and nearly drive humanity to extinction. This happens as well in the history of the Dune universe, and both universes solve this by using organic versions of AI, whether it be a Mentat in the Dune universe or a Servitor in the Warhammer universe. After uniting Terra, the Emperor needed to then unite all the worlds and planets of humans that span the galaxy from the age of technology and strife. He created 20 sons that he called primarchs. This quote from the Emperor really encapsulates the purpose of the primarchs. They shall be my sons, and in them that will live the hopes of a unified humanity. Theirs will be the strength to prevail, not only when victory lies within easy reach, but even when it seems unattainable, when doom settles like a shroud all about. In those times of darkness, my noble sons will shine the brightest of all. The Primarchs were meant to be pillars of humanity, great leaders to help the Emperor achieve his vision for humanity. Chaos, however, had other plans and spirited away the Primarchs through the warp to various worlds. So the Emperor starts the Great Crusades in search of his sons. There are so many stories about this time and great videos about each of his sons. The Emperor's stories and those of his sons become the epics of this world. The acts of bravery and humility, mythical in nature, and each are interesting and fascinating, deserving their own videos. The Emperor, also at this time, creates the Astronomicon. This was a supremely powerful psychic navigational beacon powered by the Emperor's own will and psychic abilities that would allow safe, simplified travel through the warp across far greater distances, a lighthouse in the dark guiding the way safely. So this all strikes as an epic story suitable for a god in ancient society. But one of the most interesting things about the Emperor is his flawed character. He is still a man and prone to mistakes and miscalculations, love and fear. Nothing shows this more than the Horus Heresy. There are great videos describing all the events of the Horus Heresy, so I won't go into super detail and just touch on the things that I find are the most interesting. After retrieving his sons, he returns to Terra to work on his next project to help humanity, the Webway, an even safer, more efficient way of traversing the stars. He puts his sons in charge and puts Horus in the lead position, even though not all of his sons agreed with this decision. His leaving caused several of his sons to feel like the Emperor had abandoned them. This wound opened up the door for the Chaos Gods to do their thing, and they began to corrupt the sons of the Emperor. It didn't help that along with this wound, one of his sons, Lorgar, would be humiliated by the Emperor when he wouldn't give up his overly religious ways and thinking that the Emperor was a god. The Emperor tolerated this for a while, but eventually had to put a stop to it, and he did so by destroying a city Lorgar and his world bearers loved. Lorgar was shocked and then easily manipulated. Like most events that happen into a society, it's rarely caused by just one thing. It's a culmination of a multitude of problems, and this particular problem sees its resolution on Terra. Horus and several other Primarchs march on Terra. There are so many cool stories during this time. Long story short, in a climactic battle, Horus and the Emperor clash in an epic duel of both martial and psychic prowess. The Emperor held back his full power as he still loved his son, Horus most of all. In battle, the Emperor is mortally wounded and then realizes that he can't just kill Horus, that he would always be a threat to humanity, even in death, so he unleashes his full power, not only killing Horus, but completely erasing him from existence. That's rough. In his last great act for humanity, he is entombed on the Golden Throne, an ancient artifact that he was using for his Webway project. This project would have made it easier and safer for humanity to move through space. It is now his tomb. He sits and uses his psychic abilities to hold back the forces of chaos. He is sustained by the sacrifice of 1,000 psychers every day. He is deified. He is the corpse god. How ironically tragic. He becomes the very thing he didn't want to be. Humanity after this hobbles along for 10,000 years before we come to current times, where the Emperor is the god of this Imperium of Man. What an interesting, morally great character we have in the Emperor, and a great jumping off point in exploring the universe of Warhammer. Solely concerned on human greatness, he was willing to sacrifice morality to set up a totalitarian, imperialist, xenophobic empire. The hero to some, the most foul of villains to others. He wasn't nice to all his sons and did terrible things to several of them. In his arrogance, he didn't feel he needed to explain himself, creating a further rift between himself and his sons. Tunnel vision focus left him vulnerable. In the wake of his hubris, we are left with a war-stricken, blood-drenched world where death is around every corner and all there is war. Thanks for watching, everyone. What other interesting characters do you think I should cover? They just re-released both the original Blood Omen and the Soul Reaver games, and I would love to revisit them as they had interesting stories and characters, with a time-spanning story involving vampires and elder gods. I'm also playing B Rising, and love how there isn't really a story, but how it's more character-driven in the sense that as you progress through the game, you fight various characters to empower yourself. Now doesn't that sound interesting? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.